Hey everybody, this is Carl from Carl's Opinion. The song you're listening to is known as Wall of Fire. That's Wall of Fire. Tonight's live video regards the legal basis for the construction of the wall. That is right, the legal basis for the construction of the wall, to wit, the ability of the president to declare a national emergency in order to have a wall built. This was done in an interview from John Eastman on Fox, a constitutional law professor at FOWLER University School of Law at Chapman University. And I'm going to play a little bit of his interview first, and then we'll go into the actual law that he talks about. So let's cut off the music here, and let's go ahead and get him up here. All right, I'm going to cut over, and we'll go ahead and play this video today, right now. Here we go.
He will not do it in the days ahead. Let's bring in John Eastman. He's a constitutional law professor at Chapman University to talk about the legality of the matter. Good to see you tonight, Professor.
Thanks very much for having me on.
Please state your case as to why we heard from moderate Republican Susan Collins a little earlier in the program saying she has real concerns about this. Please state your case on why you think the president has this executive power.
Well, he's not relying on inherent authority from the Constitution, although he probably could. He's relying on very specific statutes. The National Emergencies Act gives him the power to declare a national emergency. Every president since that act was passed has used it. President Barack Obama used it to declare a national emergency over the swine flu. And then once that national emergency is declared, and I think what's going on the border clearly qualifies, there's a whole bunch of statutory authorities that are triggered for the president, including Title 33, Section 2293 of the U.S. Code, that specifically says the president can redeploy monies already authorized for military construction projects in furtherance of the national emergency effort he's declared. Right. I mean, the statute's very clear.
Now, you wrote an op-ed, I noticed on today, that says, among other things, even the liberal Brennan Center for Justice and the New York Times have acknowledged that those statutes give the president the authority he needs to direct existing appropriations toward construction of a border security wall once he has declared that national emergency. Now, David French in the Conservative National Review, as you know, has said, wait a second, this is going to just get tied up in the courts, the Ninth Circuit or somewhere else. The left is going to go shopping for a venue to block the president, and this will just be delayed for months.
Well, the Supreme Court has already sent a pretty strong signal that it's getting tired of these lower courts being part of the resistance movement to the results of the last election, the 2016 election. And they've even sent a shot across the bow of the lower courts against issuing nationwide injunctions. So I think, I have no doubt that there'll be some, hyper-partisan lower court that would move to strike this down. They're striking down anything the president does. The question is, what's the right legal answer that will ultimately be decided by the Supreme Court? And I have no doubt that the president's own powers as commander-in-chief, combined with the very clear statutory delegation of powers from the Congress, are going to find that these actions will be upheld.
Professor, I've got 30 seconds. Bottom line, it seems like it would be better for the president to go through Congress, but with them deadlocked and no sign of progress, could this be his only route forward?
Well, it may be his only route forward. And the one thing I'll correct there is he's already gone through Congress. These statutes were passed by Congress that gives him this authority. So we're talking about the more recent authority or the long-standing authority. Either way, he has authority from Congress.
All right. John Eastman, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And there you have it, a little bit interesting there, to play a little more music. Kind of like this, the Wall of Fire. So there you go. And he was talking about a couple of different statutes. He was talking about 2293, Title 33, Section 2293. That's 33 United States Code 2293, and I'll punch that up there for you right now, what that is. And as you see there, Section 2293 says reprogramming during national emergencies. This is the authority given by Congress to the president to declare a national emergency. As you heard him state, even President Barack Obama declared a national emergency for the swine flu. President Bush did it after 9/11. This statute provides termination and deferment of civil works projects, application of resources to national defense projects in the event of a declaration of war or a declaration by the president of a national emergency. The Secretary of Defense, may terminate or defer the construction, operation, maintenance, or repair of any department of the Army civil works projects that he deems not essential to the national defense, and subsection 2, to apply the resources of the Department of the Army Civil Works program, including funds, personnel, and equipment, to construct or assist in the construction, operation, maintenance, or repair of authorized civil works, military construction, and civil defense projects that are essential to the national defense. So basically, the Secretary would have to declare that this is a national defense issue. Now, what's further, you'll see this here, under Title 10 U.S. Code Section 284. Also, the President has authority under the support for counter-drug activities and activities to counter transnational organized crime. Here, by the appropriate official of a state, local, or tribal government in the case of support for state, local, or tribal law enforcement agencies, which means basically like the governor of the state of Texas, or the attorney general for the state of Texas, or Arizona, or New Mexico. Leave out California, that's not going to happen. And then it says, or in the case of support described in subsection C, such support is requested by an appropriate official of a department or agency of the federal government, to wit, Homeland Security. That's Kristen Nielsen. Of the federal government in coordination with the Secretary, or actually this would be, I apologize, it would be like the Drug Enforcement Agency, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is also under Homeland Security. I think they put that in Homeland Security, but it would be the Drug Enforcement Agency, if you will. In combination with the Secretary of State, well, that's not going to be a problem, that has counter-drug responsibilities or responsibilities for countering transnational organized crime. And then it lays out types of support for agencies of the United States, the purposes for which the Secretary may provide support under subsection A for other departments or agencies of the federal government, or a state, local, or tribal law enforcement agencies are the following. And then you go down to subsection 7, specifically lays out the construction of roads and fences and installation of lighting to block drug smuggling corridors across international boundaries of the United States. Well, the president's already laid out, and you notice in his speech, that was no accident that he included in there a discussion about, the amount of drugs being smuggled across the border. The president is nobody's fool, least of all the Democrats. And he's got some good people there in his administration who obviously have read this statute and who have read also Title 33, Section 2293. So there was no accident that he mentioned the amount of drugs that are being interdicted coming across the border. And I mean, the language here, this language was written quite some time ago. I apologize, I forgot to keep up the year that it was enacted. But nonetheless, it's been on the books for a while. This was passed by Congress, signed into law. It specifically says fences. The Democrats kind of handed them that one when they said, no, we don't want a wall, a fence would be better. So I actually, by changing the language from wall to a fence, the Democrats just handed them this statute. It's kind of the sure-sightedness of the Democrats. This can be done. Now, as the professor was stating, and also was written in the National Review, the lower courts would block this. Well, that's true. I'm sure you can find a U.S. District Court to block this from going through, or put a temporary protection order or restraining order halting its implementation. But that would immediately be appealed to, most likely they'd probably file in California, so it'd go to the Ninth Circuit. But you could probably ask for an emergency review by the Supreme Court. And just like the Supreme Court did with the travel ban, they took up an issue of the restraining order pretty quick, because they said, hey, look, this is going to end up in front of us anyway. And you only need 4 justices to get certiorari. You're going to have 4 justices. You're going to have so you can have Thomas, you're going to have Gorsuch, you're going to have Kavanaugh. You can definitely argue to have Roberts, and God, who's the other one? That's losing my mind here as I sit here right now in front of you guys. Can't remember the 5th conservative justice. Darn. That's terrible. But let's see, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Thomas, Roberts. God, can't remember it. Getting old. But anyway, you can definitely get those 4 guys to sign off on actually hearing the case quickly. Oh, I apologize. Alito, Samuel Alito. So even if Roberts didn't sign off, Samuel Alito would. That's 4 justices to hear the matter. And I can't see where Roberts wouldn't cede to the authority of the President of the United States on something like this, especially when the statute's been in place for a long time. So with Alito in there and Roberts, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas, there's your 5-4 decision right there. I find it hard to believe that even the liberal justices would say the president doesn't have authority under this statute. I mean, what are they going to do? Rewrite the statute? That's pretty much what the liberal justices would have to do. Say, well, it's not a national. You can't declare a national emergency. It's up to a court to say whether or not a situation is in fact a national emergency, or under this code section here for the support of for counter drug activities, they're going to say, oh, there are no drugs coming across the border. A U.S. District Court judge is better able to make that determination versus, like, say, the Drug Enforcement Agency. I mean, who in their right mind can say that there are no drugs coming across the border? Who in their right mind can say, especially when the statute provides for the construction of fences? That language, that word did not have to be in there. It was put in there. And it was put in there a long time before Donald Trump became president. So with those 2 statutes in place, he can in fact declare a national emergency. Yes, it would tick off a lot of people, but if Congress isn't going to go along with the $5.7 billion, trust me, he could probably allocate a lot more. Now there is an issue as far as the statutory authority also goes back to the 2006 Act as well that was signed into law by President Bush, of the Defense and Security Act, or whatever it was called. It was referenced in a couple of different YouTube sites. And there was a number of miles of fencing that was put in, and then it was halted when right after President Barack Obama took office, and he stopped construction of the additional fencing. There was a 2012 Act, though. I'm surprised that Professor didn't reference that, which also provided for additional fencing. But at a minimum, it looks like you'd probably get another 600 miles of wall just by doing this. Or fence. Let's make, hey, we're going to call it a fence. That's what the statute says. The Democrats want to call it a fence. Screw the wall idea. We're not going to call it a wall anymore. We got a nice statute that talks about fences. We're just going to stay with that all day long. And so, I mean, I think he has statutory authority to do it. If you guys want to chime in on this, and I'll put the other statute back up again too, real quick here. The 2293 statute, and you can see right there. This is the actual the declaration of a national emergency, and how the resource can be used. And you can take money that's already been allocated by Congress. See, that's what Congress is saying. Is like, that's why you can't, like, the GoFundMe page where you have, like, $20 million. It's like you can't direct that money. Only Congress can allocate where the money is being spent by the federal government, except when there's a statutory exception for that. So even though money's been earmarked for the Department of Defense for, say, this project in South Korea, this project in the Middle East somewhere, this project, building a military base in Europe, if the president declares a national emergency, the president through the Secretary of Defense can redirect where that money is going to go. So say they've allocated, I don't know, say $25 billion to various projects. Secretary of Defense can say, okay, this is not necessarily needed for national defense at this point. It's not as, the need for the border security outweighs the need for, like, say, upgrading a base someplace, upgrading like 20 bases or 30 bases in different locations around the world, or 50 bases, and we're going to redirect, say, $25 billion of that budget that we've been allocated, and we're going to redirect it towards the border, and we're going to put up the fencing along however many miles that the previous statutes in 2006 and 2012 allowed. So with that said, I mean, this can be done. It's a question of will. It's a question of political courage. The question of I have no doubt the president has the political courage, but he's going to catch heat for it, and I think we all know that. But it's one of those things where this has to get done. We don't have a choice anymore here. There is a crisis at the border. The amount of drugs that are coming through, the amount of human trafficking that's going on, the amount of people that are getting hurt on both sides of the border. You know, people know they can't get across, they're not going to try to get across. And we are very generous. I think we take in over 1 million people a year illegally. Most of those people we take in legally come from Mexico. So not like we don't like Mexicans. I mean, if you live in the Southwest, I live in Nevada. I mean, everybody, you know Mexicans. I mean, you work with Mexicans, you hang out with Mexicans, you know Mexicans. I mean, it's not like, oh, we don't like Mexicans. No, we just want people to come across here legally. And we want to be able to vet the people that are coming across. And we want to keep, you know, drug smugglers from coming across. Yeah, they can dig a tunnel. I've heard all that before. Whoop-de-doo. You know, that's not just an easy feat, digging a tunnel and then not having it found, and then hiding it, and then, you know, and then being able to transport it, you know, over the border. I mean, if somebody's got, you know, a house built on the other side, you know, our Border Patrol guys are pretty good at spotting this stuff. Yeah, you may get away with it for like, you know, a week or two, maybe, you know, pay off with the right people down, you know, south of the border. But you're not going to get away with it for very long. So, and we put the other statute back up, and that's, again, that's a national emergency statute right there you're reading. And then this is the drug interdiction. This is all, again, this is all mentioned. I just want to say thank you. This was from Professor EASTMAN. He's a constitutional law professor at FOWLER School of Law at Chapman University. And you know, he pointed this out. I mean, this won't get a lot of play anywhere. It probably won't even get a lot of play on Fox. You know, it's a legal issue. It's not the most exciting, glamorous thing in the world to talk about. It's statutory, but you know, we're talking about, you know, we're a country of laws. You know, not men. And these are the laws that were put in place. And again, on this statute here with drug interdiction, I mean, they specifically mentioned fences. I mean, oh my God. I mean, you know, President Trump just kind of backed into this one. Democrats kind of stepped into this one more than anything. So, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, we this can get done and get done in the right way. Let me see if I can get this off of here real quick. The little box in a box. Hold on a sec. There we go. Yeah, now you just got me. Just me, myself, and I. But I don't see anybody in the chat room. And let me see if I can put up here. If you want to do a live call-in on vMix, let me see if I can get that up here. There you go. So if you want to appear in a vMix, I'll just sit up a little bit here so you can see me. If you want to appear in a live vMix video call-in, you can just send me an email. Just put in the chat that you're sending me the email, and then I'll go ahead and take care of that for you at that point. Let's see. Appear by vMix video. Email to ca2jogger@gmail.com. You do that, then I shoot you back the actual link, and you just click on the link. You can click on it from your cell phone as long as you have Google or Firefox on your cell phone. You can just do it that way, and then you'll be on. And you'll be on live with Carl Jogger, appearing to millions of people across the world. You know, millions of people view this. Just that YouTube shadow bans me, and they actually suppress the number of actual views I get. So if you see a video and it's only got, like, say, 33 views, probably more like 33,000 views. You know, and if you see a video that only has, like, say, you know, I don't know, 8 or 9 likes, it's probably more like, you know, 8 or 9,000 likes. Sure, why not? Hey. And if you see, like, you don't see anybody in the chat room, there are probably a whole bunch of people in the chat room, which is YouTube just hiding it from the general public. You know, I wear this Make America Great Again hat, and I got the American flag behind me. You know, the YouTube algorithms pick it up, and they zap it off. Hey, why not? I mean, I don't like conspiracy theories, but, you know, I'll throw one out there if it benefits me, makes me look good. Why not? Sure. Hey, I'm not beyond that, doing something like that. But if you do want to appear, just feel free to call in. I know it's a little bit late for everybody. On the West Coast here, it's like 12:23. And, well, I took a nap earlier. I was pretty exhausted. I was talking to some guys to the DA's office, and I go, how do I look? They go, oh, you look tired. Well, that's the nice thing about, you know, men. It's like, you know, we have no problem telling each other, you know, you look like shit today. You know, it's like, you know, women will get offended if you tell a woman that. You know, they don't want to hear the truth. They just say, oh, you look great. You look great. Men are like, how do I look? Oh, you look really tired. It's like, oh, thanks. You know, you want, if you're asking, for a man, if you're asking the question, you actually want to know the truth. You know, so it's a little bit different for men and for women in that regards. But, yeah, I always find that kind of amusing. Let's see here. All right. But anyway, so there are the code sections, there are the statutes. Looks like the president has authority to either declare a national emergency or to actually go the route of just saying, hey, I need to build some fences. And I guess it's kind of along the lines of a national emergency. Pretty much say, hey, look, and it looks like even the states can, it says, let me pull this statute up again real quick here for you guys. Let me pull this title out of here. This is the drug interdiction statute, support for counter drug activities, again, by the appropriate official of a state, local, or tribal government. In the case of support for state, local, or tribal law enforcement agencies. I mean, what? Nobody can see the governor of Texas or the attorney general for the state of Texas requesting, support for interdicting drugs along the border. You can't see that happening? Of course you can. That can be done like yesterday. I mean, if anybody was watching the Fox interview today from the state of Texas, I guarantee you somebody's sending a letter an email or a letter right now, or a formal declaration of a request for help, and to erect additional fencing or repairs on said fencing or maintaining said fencing. Again, we're going to use the word fence from now on. I don't want to hear the word wall anymore from anybody. Remember, it's a fence, a fence, a fence, a fence, and a fence. If the statute had said wall, we'd be saying wall. But here, the statute says fence. So, and I think it's a really good statute. I got the wrong one up here. I apologize. Let me pull this down here. There we go. There, that's me. That's me without the box. Now, notice that little box I had there, and I can kind of show you that. Let me see here. I'm going to cut that over real quick. If you see that little box here, this is for the vMix video. So if you send me an email and I send you the link, you'll be appearing right, if you're looking at the screen to the right of me, but be to my left, if you will, in real life. But yeah, you'll be appearing to the right of me, and there you'll be, right there. And it will be seen by millions of people. You'll be famous. I can make you famous. You'll be seen by millions of people around the world. And after this video goes viral, and it's something you might want to think about doing. It's kind of fun. I've done call-in shows and on other people's YouTube channels. I've done Anthony Brian Logan, where I've done Skype call-in. Oh, and by the way, just to give you a little update here. I'm getting some additional equipment that I just picked up. Nothing expensive. I mean, the nice thing about doing all of this is that it's not super expensive to do any of it. You don't have to be a millionaire to do this. Let me get this up here. There we go, and take this off. You don't have to be a millionaire to do this kind of stuff. I mean, you get like a little mixing board. Those aren't expensive. You get a little thing for your cell phone. You have Skype on your cell phone. You have a designated number on the cell phone, and then it just plugs through this little device, and this little device goes on your mixing board, and the mixing board has a USB port, and that plugs into your computer, and then you have like a mix minus situation on your mixing board. So basically, the caller coming in it's coming in through the mixing board into, I use this vMix video production. Again, big shout out to vMix. Excellent. This is all being done on vMix right now, so big shout out to them. Let's see here, just make sure we're all good here. There we go. Excellent. All right. But big shout out to vMix, and then it goes through your computer, whatever operating system you're using, Ecamm or vMix or OBS. I don't know. I mean, if you can figure out OBS thing, you're smarter person than I am, because man, that stuff's a nightmare for me. I was trying to use OBS, and then I found vMix, and I was like, oh, this is what this is supposed to do. This is what all these inputs mean. Okay, and the tutorials on OBS weren't really very helpful. The tutorials on vMix are extremely user friendly. They talk to you like you don't know what you're doing, which is fine with me, because I didn't know. I don't have an ego when it comes to this. I messed up more of these than I can count, so I'm kind of glad they're kind of going along pretty good now. And but yeah, so anyway, I'll be able to hopefully this weekend maybe be able to use Skype. So if you don't want to appear, you know, uh, in this box side by side here, I understand. Maybe you don't want your face on camera for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe you have an ugly face. I mean, you know, maybe it's like, I guess you can wear a mask. Well, no, I don't want you wearing a mask. But, maybe you have an ugly face or something. But, or maybe you just don't, maybe you have a job or something and you're afraid, you might lose your job. And, that's a real fear. I mean, I understand that. With all everything that's going on now with suppression of free speech, you say the wrong thing, some guy in the HR department or some employee doesn't like you to begin with, just wants to, screw you over, shoots over a copy of this, video and you're on it, that could cause you some problems. Skype, you can appear by phone, you don't have to give out your real name. I won't take any private block calls, but I'm not going to sit there and give out your phone number. I'm probably just you notice a lot of the call-in shows when the people use Skype and stuff, they just give out the area code. Well, if I give out like a 702 area code, well, there's like, 2.5 million people living in Las Vegas. I mean, the odds of somebody knowing it was you are going to be pretty slim and none. So, but yeah, you can do that. That's fun. Did an interview last week? Might have been the week before. No, it was last week. Last week, January 1st. Interview on O'Shea Duke Jackson's site. He was very kind and generous to invite me on, and then give me put a link in his description thing to have people sub to my site, which I really appreciated. I do live call-in shows with Axel Truth, Still the Truth channel. That's always fun. That's kind of a more of a small community group of people. We all kind of like hang out together, we'll get like 60, 70 people watching, a live event. It's probably only going to go up from there because everybody's on there pretty cool. We got some pretty good moderators on there too. I'm one of the moderators on there. I pull the trigger pretty hard. I don't like a lot of crap in the chat room, especially don't like it when it's directed towards the host. He's like, no, leave him in. No, that's okay. They can insult me. I don't care. And I'm like, no, I care. It's like, I'm not going to, screw these guys. I mean, who are they? I mean, I know what it takes. Look, I personally know what it takes to put one of these things together. And, it maybe as a finished product after, screwing around with it for like a month or two or, or a week or two of full time, trying to work out all the kinks, it may look like, oh, that's a nice finished product. I could do that. And then you try to get into it and try doing it. It takes a lot of work to put all this together. I mean, hours to learn all this stuff. I mean, this is real production quality stuff here, as you can tell. This isn't something like, fly by night, little program here. This is a very powerful program. All the things that are used here are used, other like on CNN and stuff. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. You can fade in, fade again. You can slide in. You can slide again. You can, let's see. What's this? I don't even know what this is. I'm gonna hit a button. Hopefully I don't go nowhere. Let's see. Whoa. Yeah, see? You can do stuff like that now. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Whoa. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's not bad at all. But then, you can do things like, like you can pull this up. You can do like this. Whoa. And there's a statue. And then you can even, go over here and pull up the new statute. Boom, you're in. I mean, you can add all these inputs and stuff. So you can pull the title off. I mean, it's just fun stuff. Boom. You can actually read the statute now. So, if you guys anybody wants to do a live video thing, or you have any questions you want to put in the chat room, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have regarding the law and stuff in this. I looked at it, and again, I didn't find this. I mean, this isn't me. This is, Professor John EASTMAN, constitutional law professor at FOWLER School of Law, over there at CHAPMAN University, and I think he writes for the Federalist a lot, Society, but I mean, these are the statutes. I mean, I'm sorry if you don't like them. I guess Congress can try to pass a new statute rescinding this one. Good luck. You never get you know, you'll never have, one, it'll never get past the Senate, and two, and if it did, it's president vetoes it, you're not going to get 67 senators to override the veto. That's not going to happen. And then, since we're talking law today, guess we can talk about people wanting to, let's see, there I am. People are talking about wanting to get rid of the Electoral College. You know, again, we're in a republic. We're not a straight democracy. We don't have direct democracy in this country where, you know, like, say, for instance, we're talking about, I don't know, pick a subject, tax cuts. You know, it's not like, you know, we have all these devices at home and we all push a button and we vote yes or no in favor of a tax cut bill. I mean, it doesn't happen. You know, that's what we have, you know, representatives for, representative democracy. You know, it's logistically that's the only way it could work. I mean, Plato wrote about this. You know, he talked about, you know, city-states and stuff, and he talked about the problems of having a representative democracy, a republican form of government, where you vote other people to look after your interests. Because there's always going to be a problem there. Because, you know, they're never going to look after your interests specifically. But, you know, he maxed out, like, you know, the perfect city-state at a population of 5,000 people. Well, that's not tenable. That wasn't tenable back in ancient Greece, let alone, you know, modern-day America or anywhere else. I mean, you can imagine all these different cities. I mean, we had something called city-states. You know, they were taken over by nation-states. You know, if you don't believe me, ask the Duchy of, you know, Saxony. You know, doesn't exist anymore. You know, centralized nation states, you know, dominated Europe after the fall of, you know, well, yeah, the fall of the Roman Empire. They had a whole bunch of mess, and then eventually the centralized nation states, you know, started coming to power, consolidating power, and, you know, you had places like Prussia, France, England. You know, they started, you know, versus, you know, not having, you know, Wales and, you know, New York and, you know, those kind of places. You know, you had one country, and that's just the way it went. So, but if you do want to appear by a vMix video, again, just send me an email to that address there, ca2jogger@gmail.com. I'll just check my Gmail real quick here. I don't think probably nothing in there. I doubt there's anything in there, but we'll take a look. See if somebody sent me an email. Let's see. Nope. No email. Go figure. What are you going to do? I'm still twirling around there. But, what was that? There we go. Well, looks like we have good streaming quality tonight. Yeah, actually it says good variable resolution stream. So it's a good stream status. So that's actually working out good. I'm happy about that. And let's get back over here. But anyway, let's talk about the Electoral College. So anyway, so they want to get rid of the Electoral College. They want to, let me sit up a little bit here so you can see my face. There we go. Getting kind of late here. Like I said, you know, I took a nap earlier, so I'm not tired right now. I hate when that happens. So I'm awake now, and I figure, well, while I'm awake, I'll do this. Because, you know, it's one of these, I'm not just going to lay in bed with my eyes open, you know, staring at the ceiling for, you know, the next 2 hours. So I figured I'd do this. It was helping me kind of knock me out a little bit, go to sleep. I got to get up early in the morning and stuff. But with the sleep I got this evening, I should be okay. It's just one of the things. I was just so tired. I tried to stay awake when I got home, but it just wasn't going to happen. So, but anyway, so if you did, like I said, if you want to appear, just shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you. But anyway, back to the Electoral College. One, you'd have to have a constitutional amendment. That's require, I believe, 3/4 of the states to approve it. Well, 3/4 of the states, a big surprise. 3/4 of the states are not going to approve it because 3/4 of those states are small states, and they know if you get rid of the Electoral College, they'll never, states like Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Nevada to a certain extent, except for Las Vegas, you know, only the big cities, the candidates are only going to go to the big cities. You know, LA, San Francisco, San Diego, Las Vegas, Houston, New Orleans, Chicago, Detroit. Did I say New York City? Yeah, New York City. The big cities. And they're only going to, if you will, pander. It's kind of pejorative to say that, but it is true. Pander to the issues of people who live in those big cities. Well, people, that cuts out the rest of the country. The rest of the country, their issues never get addressed. I mean, that's crazy. And that was the whole point of forming it the way they did. You had a bunch of states coming together here, forming a government, but they want to make sure the states, they were very proud of their own states, and they want to make sure their states, didn't get rolled over on by a large federal government. And these smaller states are not going to go for that. I mean, it'll never get through. I think it has to be 2/3 of both the House and the Senate, and then 3/4 of the state legislatures have to approve it. Well, unless these states are suicidal and don't want any their issues being addressed by a campaign, at least promises being made to them. Whether those promises are kept, that's another story. But I mean, basically, you can have the two coasts, the East Coast and the West Coast, determining who the president is, and the president's going to be, presidential candidates can be pandering to the issues of people on the East and West Coast and ignoring the center of the country. So those, 3 of those 4 states, three out of every 4 states, that's the center of the country, and those legislatures are never going to approve it. So I mean, that's a stupid amendment to even try to bring up to begin. They just bring it up to try to say, Al Gore got more votes than George Bush, and then they say, well, Hillary Clinton got more votes than Trump. Well, Bill Clinton didn't get 50% of the votes either. I think the first election was 43% of the votes. But more importantly, that it's like, you can look at the reason why Clinton got more. I mean, forget about all the fraud and who voted, who shouldn't, if there were legal aliens voting versus not voting. Forget that. What the Clinton campaign did is, they pushed hot and heavy for places they shouldn't have pushed for, but they pushed to big population centers. I mean, Hillary Clinton was in California a lot. She had California locked up. That state was never going for Trump, but she was out there campaigning and spending money out there anyway. Why? I don't know. She doesn't know why. Same thing in New York. Her campaign headquarters, yeah, I mean, she's based out of New York, but it was in New York. Well, she was going to always get New York. That wasn't an issue. So, and Trump, Trump, I don't think had a single campaign event. I think he had one in Costa Mesa, maybe, and that was it. But, if he didn't have the Electoral College, then Trump would have campaigned hot and heavy in the population centers also. You don't think Trump could have picked up more votes in California if he had gone out there and campaigned? And you don't think more people would have voted for him in those big states? If, a lot of people like in California, probably, Republicans, conservatives, they might not have even gone out and voted. They knew their vote was a throwaway vote. Same thing if you lived in Washington or Oregon, or even New York. If you're a Republican, well, it's a waste of my vote because the state's going to be blue, and, even my vote's not going to mean anything because it's based on Electoral College. But if, in fact, there was no Electoral College, and every vote counted, you don't think more Republicans would have voted in blue states? You don't think Trump would have gone out to those blue states and campaigned hot and heavy, brought in the large crowds, got people excited? You don't think he would have picked up more votes there? But no, his campaign strategy was the same as President Obama's strategy in 2008. Hey, screw this place, screw that place. We're going for electoral votes. He had the same strategy in the primaries against Hillary Clinton. It worked there too. He knew he could pick up those little states, Idaho and stuff like that, because the Clinton campaign wasn't paying attention to him. And he did the same thing in the 2008 general election. He went for the electoral votes. You don't campaign for population centers. You campaign for electoral votes. And if the Electoral College doesn't exist, then you campaign for the big mass media markets, large population centers. So Trump would have campaigned there too. So ipso facto, would have Clinton beat Trump if Trump was campaigning for the same people she was going after? Yeah, he would have won. She would have lost. It would have been the same result. And they can't come, well, we got more votes. Well, then why were you, yeah, okay, great. You got more votes in California. Were you chasing after California voters? Why were you wasting time spending money chasing after California voters when you had California in the bag? Why were you chasing after New York voters when you had New York voters in the bag? Maybe you should have spent some time in Michigan and Wisconsin. Maybe more time in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Possibly. I mean, that Pennsylvania thing, remember, they didn't really go hot and heavy in Pennsylvania until right near the end. I think, in fact, that was her last campaign stop was in Philadelphia. And that was last minute they put that together. because they were starting to see the internal numbers in Pennsylvania. And that campaign site was in Philadelphia. I mean, that's the city they should have had locked up. There's no reason why they had to go to Philadelphia to try to get votes. I mean, there was they saw something near the end there. I mean, that wasn't. I don't think that was as big a shock. It may have been a big shock to Hillary Clinton because nobody would tell her, "Hey, there's a chance you can lose," because she seems like the kind of person you don't want to give bad news to. Kind of goes ballistic on you. But the people in the campaign were seeing the numbers coming in from Pennsylvania, and of all the places to go to, they go to a place where they should have had locked up, to wit, Philadelphia. They still had to go there. They saw numbers from Philadelphia, from the suburbs in Philadelphia coming in, showing that they didn't have Philadelphia locked up. And I guarantee you, they saw numbers from the black male voters coming in too from around Philadelphia and the other cities, showing they didn't have the black male vote locked up. I don't care what the exit polls say. Again, in my opinion, there was a whole lot of black men who voted for Donald Trump who will never admit it to anybody. They definitely won't admit it to their girlfriends or their wives. They probably won't admit it to their friends. Again, I can always just imagine these two guys hanging out with each other. They're both friends, and they both voted for Trump, but neither one's going to tell the other they did. Even though they both did. They might hint around at it eventually. Kind of like in the old days of the Roman Empire when, the Christians, would be, one Christian would come across who we thought potentially was another Christian, and he'd draw a little like half circle. And then if the other guy was a Christian too, then he'd draw another half circle over the top of it. Hence like the little fish image for Christianity. And I said, okay, I'm a Christian too. We can talk, and I'm not gonna like pull out a sword and kill you, that kind of thing. So. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of other stories going on, Ocasio-Cortez and things like that. But anyway, this song again is "Wall of Fire" by, I don't have his name, unfortunately. Oh, maybe I do. Let me see if I can see what his name is real quick here. Looks like "Wall of Fire" by Tony Anderson. Yeah. So there's a reason why I found this song, because I wanted talk about the wall tonight, obviously, and hence I entitled the video "Wall of Fire" as well. So anyway, I hope you liked the video. Let me see if I got anybody in the chat room. Oh, good morning, James Harvey. How you doing? Yeah, you voted for Trump. All right, way to go, man. Sorry I missed you on the chat. I wasn't on that page, but yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully you didn't leave it too long ago. I apologize for that. But yeah, if you want to appear in a VMix video, just shoot me an email to that address, ca2jogger@gmail.com. If not, if you have any questions you want to ask me in the chat, feel free. And again, sorry I missed you there in the chat room. I was kind of busy over here playing on this VMix video. Oh, okay, cool, dude. Well, I don't like ignoring people. I think it's kind of rude. So anyway, but yeah, it's just yeah, I know there are. Again, I think that black male vote was totally underreported in the last election. I saw a poll from Rasmussen has black male support for Trump at like 38%. I think that's a little high. To be honest with you, I think it's just a high number. NAACP did a poll. You've never heard this one, but NAACP did a poll, and that came out at 22%. Oh, good deal. And that came out at 22%. And that was the NAACP, and no love lost between the NAACP and Donald Trump, and and I'm sure that the questions they asked on that poll were designed to try to suppress the number of people who say they supported Trump. So it might be a number between 22% and 38%, but whatever that number is, it's sure of a hell of a lot higher than the 8% the mainstream media is giving Trump. And I'll tell you right now, there's no way Trump could have won Wisconsin. That includes Madison and Milwaukee. There's no way he could have won Michigan. That includes Lansing and Detroit. There's no way he could have won Ohio, which is Cleveland and Cincinnati. There's no way he could have won Pennsylvania, which again that's Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. North Carolina, that's Charlotte. There's no way he could have. There's no way. Hey, Mr. Real Aaron Collins. There's no way he could have won those states without black male voting support. There's no way. He could have never taken those states, and that was the difference. And the mainstream media doesn't want to report that fact. They're afraid. But see, the Democratic Party, they know that, because that's why they've already made their move towards the Latino vote. And I think I was on, God, whose site was it? It might have been Information Man's site, but somebody posted a comment Yeah, in fact, I'll go back and talk about that right now. But somebody posted a comment that Latinos make better slaves than black people do. That's why the Democrats are going after the Latino vote now instead of the black. That's why they're kind of abandoning the black vote. But yeah, let me cut this music off, and I'll get to the beginning part of this, what I was talking about earlier. Let me get to this here. Boom. And what I was talking about earlier was a story I saw on Fox News, and there was a professor on there, John EASTMAN. He's a constitutional law professor from Fowler School of Law at Chapman University. And he wrote that the president has absolute authority to one, declare a national emergency, not from a kind of inherent, Article 2 powers, Article 2 of the Constitution gives the president a lot of authority, not from that, but by actually statutory authority from Congress. And he pointed towards two statutes, and let me just jump into one here. And the first statute he pointed to, let me pull this vMix thing off of here. Hold on a sec. Boom. There we go. First statute he pointed to is 33 United States Code, Section 2293, federal statute. And this is the right of the president to declare a national emergency. And what he said on the interview with Fox was that, every president since the statute was passed has declared a national emergency at one time or another. And basically even President Obama declared a state of national emergency to combat the swine flu, I think back in 2009 or something like that. And so if you look at this statute, which is actually a pretty nice statute, it talks about the Department of Defense, can, if you look here, termination or deferment of civil works projects, application of resources to national defense projects. And it goes on to say, in the event of a declaration of war or a declaration by the President of a national emergency, the Secretary of Defense, may, 1, terminate or defer the construction, operation, maintenance, or repair of any department of the Army Civil Works project that he deems not essential to the national defense. Like, for instance, the military spends a lot of money, billions of dollars every year, on maintaining bases, on doing upgrades to military bases and things like that. Even things like roads and their own fences and stuff. And so then it goes on to say, and 2, the Secretary can then apply the resources of the Department of Defense of the Army Civil Works Program, including funds, personnel, and equipment, to construct or assist in the construction, operation, maintenance, and repair of authorized civil works. Now, the authorization has already been done through the 2006 bill, I believe it was like Secure Fence Act or whatever it was, and also a bill in 2012 authorizing the construction of the border fences. In fact, the statute had the word fences inside of it. So the authorization has already been there. It's already been already authorized. So repair of authorized civil works, military construction, and civil defense projects that are essential to the national defense. So basically, the Secretary of Defense just has to declare it to be essential to the national defense. One other statute that this professor also cited to, and I did not know these things. We don't. I'm an attorney, but we don't read every single statute in the world. My brain would explode. But but another statute pointed to is this one here, and you can see it. This is Title 10, United States Code, Section 284, and this talks about the President's authority or federal agencies regarding support for counter-drug activities to counter transnational organized crime. Well, Mexican drug cartels. I mean, we're not asleep. We all know the drug cartels are running around out there. And this goes on to say here that by the appropriate official of a state, and the interesting thing about this statute here, if you see it says official of a state, these are people who are going to be making the request. I mean, the governor of Texas, the attorney general of Texas, both staunch Trump supporters, both Republicans. So it says, by the appropriate official of a state, local, or tribal government in the case of support for state, local, or tribal law enforcement agencies. So that's the one part. And then it goes, or in the case of support described in subsection C, that's down below, such support is requested by an appropriate official of a department or agency of the federal government. That would be like the Drug Enforcement Agency, for instance, the head of the Drug Enforcement Agency, which I think is under Homeland Security, if I'm not mistaken. In coordination with the Secretary of State, that's Pompeo. That's, of course, he's going to sign off on that. In coordination with the Secretary of State, has counter-drug responsibilities or responsibilities for countering transnational organized crime. And then it goes on to say the types of support for agencies of the United States, the purposes for which the Secretary of, I believe, Defense or State may provide support under subsection A for other, Secretary of Defense may provide support under subsection A for other departments or agencies of the federal government or a state, local, or tribal law enforcement agency are the following. And I skipped down to subsection 7. Look at this great language in this thing. Construction of roads and fences, and installation of lighting to block drug smuggling corridors across the international boundaries of the United States. Well, like I was saying earlier, the Democrats kind of just stepped right into this one because remember, they didn't like the word wall, right? Well, they like the word fence. Well, damn, here's a freaking statute that uses the word fence. It doesn't say wall. So if you notice, Trump has even kind of backed into it a little bit too. Obviously, he has people in his administration who have read these statutes and were saying, hey, man, fence is fine. Say fence because we got a statute that says fence. And if you notice, it was no accident. Trump, during his speech last night, was talking about the amount of drugs that have been interdicted coming across the border. And that's not an accident. He's talking about that for a reason, because here's a statute that talks about countering international drug smuggling coming across our border, regardless of the border, Canada, whatever. But in this case, our border with Mexico. And it says, you can bring money in that's already been, pretty much you can bring this appropriation in to, build fences and walls. The other statute, talking about the national emergency, the 33 USC 2293, again, national emergency, talking about the Secretary of Defense. Once a national emergency is declared, he can say, okay, this project over here is not as essential for national defense, like, okay, we got to build a new barracks on a base. Well, we got to build new showers, or whatever the hell the case may be. As important as declaring that we have a matter of national defense along our southern border. And so money that's already been allocated to the Department of Defense through the defense budget can then be reallocated without going back to Congress. Normally, Congress is in charge of appropriations. That's why you have the appropriation subcommittees and subcommittees. They're in charge of appropriating where the money goes. That's why that whole GoFundMe thing for the wall that's raised like $20 million, you can't just, the people who are running that site just can't say, here you go, Mr. President, here's a check for, say they get $1 billion. Here's a check for $1 billion applied to the wall. He doesn't have authority to do that. You can't just, and that's up to Congress to make the appropriations and the allocations. But this statute is an exception to that. And this is, I apologize, I didn't pull up the year this was actually enacted, but it's been enacted for quite some time. So between this section, this is Title 33, Section 2293 of the United States Code. You can Google it and pull it up yourself, take a look at it. That's what I did. I'm a lawyer, but I still use Google. I have law programs that can get me there, but sometimes Google's faster. Believe me, actually it is, by the time I sign in and everything. So 33 U.S.C. 2293, and then the other statute regarding the drug interdiction, that's 10 United States, Title 10, United States Code, Section 284. Again, you can Google that, you can hit that, and that gives them the authority to do it. Now, it's going to take some political will. The Democrats know the wall was a good idea. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, no shit. I like that. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, I know. It's like when I was watching the interview tonight, I'm like, wow, this is great, because you hear national emergency, but I didn't have time to do the research into it, so it's nice when somebody else does it for you, because I didn't have time to do all this research. Sorry, I got other things I got to do, and even I was so tired, I took a nap earlier. I watched Prophet of Thought, his live stream. Watched Uber Guy for just a few minutes, but I was mainly on Prophet of Thought's live stream watching him. He had a couple of good guests on tonight. But yeah, I took a nap, and then I got up, and then I watched this interview, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And I pulled these statutes up. But yeah, he has the authority to do it. Now, he's going to take some heat on it. Now, one of the things that was brought up, and this was brought up by a writer in the National Review, who's actually a Republican, but he's like a rhino Republican, and never Trumper. He said, well, the federal courts will block it. There is a point to that. You can find a U.S. District Court to issue a restraining order, an injunction preventing the president from implementing this. But just like with the the travel ban, also known as the Muslim ban. If you notice, with the travel ban, the Supreme Court took that issue up pretty fast, and they lifted the restraining order issued by the U.S. District Court, which was upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they lifted it. They lifted it fast. Now, we have 5 votes right now, Republican votes. You got Brent Kavanaugh, of course. You got Neil Gorsuch. You got Samuel Alito. You got Clarence Thomas and John Roberts. You only need 4 to get grand certiorari. I mean, 4 Supreme Court justices have to say we want to hear the matter. And once they do that, I can't see any of those 5, including John Roberts, who's been kind of a little squishy lately. He's kind of he was a Bush appointee, so of course, maybe no love lost between John Roberts and Donald Trump. But I can't see, based on these statutes here, that Roberts would say, well, no, the U.S. District Court judge is better suited to know what is a national emergency. We're going to undo the presidential power. Or that the U.S. District Court judge is better to say if there's a drug problem along the southern border versus, say, the Drug Enforcement Agency, that's charged with, from the executive branch to fight, do drug interdiction along our border. I find it hard, even if John Roberts hates Trump with all his might, I find it hard to believe that he would not say that the executive branch has authority to do what Congress has given them the authority to do. And with this statute here, again, subsection 7, the word fence is right in there. Again, Trump kind of backed into it. The Democrats stepped into it with their use of the word fence instead of wall. In fact, he even said, well, the Democrats want to call it a fence, so they want a fence instead of a wall. We'll do a fence. He obviously, his attorneys already did the research on this. Probably the guy who did the interview on Fox, he was probably emailing the White House before the interview, before the speech, probably not doing this interview until after the speech to kind of catch the Democrats a little flat-footed. But I think they are flat-footed on this one. I think the Democrats are in trouble on this one. I think if he wants to do this, and guess what? That $5.7 billion, he really needs about another $20 billion, maybe $25 billion. Well, you can probably find $25 billion in construction projects from the Department of Defense around the world. I mean, think of all the different bases we have around the world, that are not necessarily essential to, national security. Again, putting in barracks or showers or maybe some new roads or, a new mess hall or something or, whatever, new high-speed internet for the troops, that kind of stuff. I mean, compared to, is it more essential to have a wall along the southern border to, protect United States citizens? I think he's got it on that one. So so let me see what I have up now here. There's the drug interdiction one, which talks specifically in subsection 7 regarding fences, and then of course 2293, which is talking about the actual national emergency, reprogramming during national emergencies, termination and deferment of civil works projects, terminate and defer construction, operation, maintenance, and repair of any Department of Army Civil Works projects, and apply the resources of the Department of Defense to, of the Army Civil Works programs, including funds, personnel, equipment, or assist in the construction, operation, maintenance, and repair of authorized civil works. Again, this was authorized by Congress in 2006, and I believe also reauthorized by Congress in 2012. The 2006 law regarding the fences, I can't remember, I think it was called the Fence Act, whatever act, I don't know, was actually voted in favor of by Chuck Schumer, and at the time Senator Barack Obama, and also at the time Senator Hillary Clinton. They all voted in favor of this fence law. So I think they'd all be kind of hard pressed to say, oh, whoops. Yeah, it'd be kind of funny. It'd be kind of funny to watch the debate. It'd be nice if after this interview somebody comes out from the White House and goes public with this. I'd be really happy to see that. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for being in the chat room tonight. I am going to cut it short because it's 1 o'clock for me on the West Coast. Even though I took a nap, I probably should try to get a little bit tired now so I can go to sleep and call it a night. So anyway, thanks to James, thanks to the real Aaron Collins for coming to the chat room tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And to everybody who'll be watching this later, because I'll go ahead and have this uploaded to YouTube as soon as it gets done live streaming. Hope you enjoy the video, and hope you enjoy reading some of the law that's been put on here. So I just want to say thank you to everybody and to all a good night. And this is again Carl with Carl's Opinion. Anyway, you guys take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.